Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Rob over here at BuneBape, and I hope you're having an amazing day. Today, I'll be bringing you all another old school RuneScape video, and this time I'm simply going to be talking about the huge patch notes for the proposed ranged meta changes, and man, there is a ton of them, so I'm going to try and keep this video as short and sweet as possible. So I'm not going to be covering or going in depth on everything, but rather just hitting a few of the key points for each of the different proposed changes and letting you all know my overall thoughts. And along with that, I want to know everyone else's thoughts. So let me know down in the comments whether I sound completely out of touch with the community. So let me know. I do have experience with pretty much every one of these items, but I don't use them a ton. So it'd be nice to get other people's inputs. So with all that out of the way, let's jump straight into the toxic blowpipe. This is going to be the main point of contention in the previous proposed changes. And again, here we go with a lot of people actually agreeing that the item is generally overpowered, makes the ranged meta stale, and of course is going to be ideal against low defense enemies, and everyone wants to make it much worse against high defense enemies. And if you're wondering what these respondents are, they had a survey recently. If you listen to the podcast, you'd know that they had a ranged meta survey recently on their site. So you could have voted, and that's what all these respondents are going to be from. So the main way that they wanted to combat this is a 1-2 punch essentially to the toxic blowpipe, and that's going to be essentially taking away all of the accuracy from the darts that you put into the blowpipe. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it does make sense because if you think about it, all of the bolts and all of the arrows that you supply to the other ranged items also don't provide accuracy. So this really just brings it in line with other weapons. But along with the two-part punch, they are nerfing in half the accuracy and strength of the current blowpipe from 60 to 30 and 40 to 20 respectively. So a huge punch there, and really just knocking it down. And the accuracy actually is not going to increase at all. So 30 accuracy is pretty low, and we'll take a look at how that stacks up against the old blowpipe in just a second. As far as additional changes to darts, it seems like everyone thought it was a good idea to add amethyst darts. It's great for a good option between rune and dragon darts, and it's already offered in the bolt and arrow version. So this is going to be great for any Iron Men that have been really struggling to get good ammunition for their blowpipe. So this is going to be a really good option. So here you can see the newly proposed and old blowpipe, or the current blowpipe rather. So the strength is going to be about the same, but just absolutely crushing the accuracy. So let me know what you think about the accuracy here, because I think that's pretty low. You're going to need to either have really good gear or really high range, or both to compensate, because that is a really huge blow to the blowpipe, pun unintended. So let me know what you think down below. And also, of course, you can see they added the max hit. The current max hit is 33 with Void and 32 with the new set. So it's nice that even if you do miss a lot, when you do hit, you're going to be hitting pretty well. So it should be fairly effective at the lower defense enemies. And here you can take a look. Of course, you're doing much more DPS against enemies with low defense, such as Lizardmen. But when you're getting to stuff with really high defense, such as the Inferno, the damage just plummets off the face of the planet. It's actually going to be right down here, the dotted line. So really low damage. Let me know what you think about the new proposed changes. I think with dragon darts, it's going to be right here. So really big nerf to the blowpipe. So overall, I think this is essentially achieving the goal with the 1-2 punch of nerfing the base stats and the accuracy of the darts. Like I said, their main goal was to dramatically decrease the DPS as the defense goes up, and that seems to be what they achieved here. Overall, I think this is a good change. I wish it honestly would have came a lot earlier, but hopefully this might change it now and mix up the meta a little bit, especially with our next thing on the list. So the next thing that I was going to talk about is going to be the crystal armor as well as the crystal bow. A lot of people seem to agree that the crystal armor just wasn't in a good spot, especially in comparison to the toxic blowpipe, because it just blows it out of the water in every single regard. And so they were talking about potentially increasing the set bonus to be way higher, but in the end, this is their proposal. essentially giving a bunch of accuracy to the pieces of the crystal set, as well as increasing the defenses to make it just a little bit more sturdy, and also increasing the range strength of the crystal bow by 8, and overall reducing all of the how much it weighs, because I guess that makes sense. It's crystal. I don't know how much crystal weighs, but apparently not this much. So overall, they said that it's going to increase the range accuracy, making it better than the black d'hide and Carol's. So that's nice to see, making it just a little bit tankier, as well as reducing the weight significantly, making it easier to dodge ranged attacks. Along with that, of course, they wanted to make it so there's a lot more variety in gear, which is what they did here. They made it so that they split the set bonus to each individual piece, so now you can wear them in different styles. So they have an example set up here. If you wore the Slayer helmet build with the crystal body and legs, then you get a 40% ranged accuracy and 27.5% range damage increase while on task, which is a huge amount just for 3 pieces of gear. And along with that, they made a huge change where they're adding 2 extra bonus points of damage and 3 with the full set of armor. So that's what this extra 8 range strength is going to be. So that is a pretty big change. And along with that pretty big change is the massive bomb change. I don't even know. So a lot of people wanted to see a new improved version of the crossbow, and they brought it here in this proposal. So that is going to be the Bow of Faerdhinen. Definitely saying that wrong. Let me know how it's actually said in the comments below. And here you can see 38 extra accuracy and a whopping, I think that's 34 extra range strength. So that is not a joke. This is going to be a really, really strong weapon, and it's going to be on the same level as the Blade of Seldor. So as you can see here, it even says that the Faerdhinen was an elite elven warrior sister to Seldor. So it is going to be a level 75 ranged weapon, and you're going to get it the same way that you get the Blade of Seldor. So going into the gauntlet, you can trade 250 crystal shards for an enhanced crystal weapon seed. So I'm guessing you're going to have to combine those two, sing them together, and you'll get yourself either a Blade of Seldor or a Bow of Faerdhinen. Choose whichever you want. And also what's really cool is you can corrupt either one. So of course, in the past, they changed the Blade of Seldor so that you don't have to use charges anymore if you decide to corrupt it. So same with the crystal bow, the new improved crystal bow, you can have unlimited ammunition, which is actually going to be pretty awesome if it works out how I'm thinking. One really sick change for all of you fashionscapers out there is you're going to be able to recolor the Blade of Seldor as well as the Bow of Faerdhinen to any of the Prifddinas clan colors. So that's pretty cool. And here they have a little bit of the behind their thesis and their hypothesis. So essentially, the set bonus wasn't good enough, and they wanted to increase it. But if they increased it to the point that they thought would be good, it would kind of create another problem with it being the best set of gear in the game. So they didn't want to create a Blowpipe 2.0. So they thought this would be the next best option. So again, let me know what you think down in the comments below. As you can see here, it's kind of confusing because they reversed it from the old from the old graph. So now the new stuff is going to be solid and the old stuff is going to be dotted. I don't know why they decided to do this, but either way, it shows that the Bow of Faerdhinen is still worse than 250 magic enemies with the T-bow, but it is substantially better than pretty much everything else that is not the T-bow. So it would be a good middle ground in between the old crystal bow as well as the T-bow. So potentially a great option for people looking for something budget compared to the T-bow, because most of us don't have a bill, let's be honest. So moving on to the next section, they also had a bunch of questions about the general ranged meta when it comes to crossbows. Because a lot of people feel that crossbows are kind of weak in general, they decided to not buff the crossbows, but rather the offhands. So as you can see here, the 3 main offhands for crossbows is the Odium Ward, Fire Dragon Ward, or Dragon Fire Ward rather, and the Twisted Buckler. And so they're going to be adding ranged strength to them for 8 and 10 respectively. This is going to give you an extra +1, 2, and 2 max hit on each of the shields, actually making it pretty cool. And this of course is going to affect darts, knives, throwing axes and chinchompas. So really one point that they even bring up here, a really good point of discussion, is it's going to make chinchompas too strong because the max hit would be 23 to 25 and a DPS increase of nearly 10%, which is actually really big. I don't know exactly how that would affect the meta. I don't see anyone anytime soon running around with just a gang of chinchompas grinding at random places, but you know, maybe this could make it worthwhile. So let me know what you think down below. Overall, I think this is really cool. I think adding, because I always thought it was weird that offhands didn't have range strength, so it seems like, you know, finally kind of. So I overall am liking that change. Also, I am definitely partial because I use the Dragonfire Ward and the Twisted Buckler very often. So if I can see a buff to what I'm using, then, you know, I'm all for it. Also, the Dragon Hunter Crossbow. So a lot of you, before you start typing, they already figured that the Dragon Hunter Crossbow would be too good with the addition of the offhand damage increase. So they proposed to decrease its damage against dragon type enemies from 30% to 25%. And so overall, you will still have a 1-point increase in max hit with the offhand of either the Twisted Buckler or the Dragonfire Ward, but that's going to be as opposed to the current 74 max hit. So overall, you will still see a buff if you're using an offhand. If you're not using an offhand for, I don't know, some reason, maybe your character only has one arm, you're doing a one arm challenge, then yeah, you're going to definitely see a nerf there. So overall, I think it's a decent change. Makes sense that if they do buff the offhands, just nerf the Dragon Hunter. It's already an extremely good weapon, so this isn't going to change that. So moving on to the Armadyl Crossbow. Like I said, guys, there is a ton of notes here, so make sure to skip around. I forgot to mention in the beginning, I'll try to put a note so everyone knows you can skip around. I'm going to have a bunch of timestamps, so feel free. So for the Armadyl Crossbow, everyone I think agrees this weapon is extremely weak, especially for its price point. It has really good accuracy, but its special attack is kind of a joke. So here's their proposal: is they're going to make the special attack be 50%, and it's going to double the player's accuracy and base bolt effect activation chance. So essentially that's going to make it so a diamond bolt specifically would go from 10% to 20%. And I think while that's really nice, I feel like they just need to increase it overall, or make it so it's like a sure hit. Make something else, because I still think that's pretty lackluster, especially for an item that costs 20 to 30 mil. Second best crossbow, or yeah, arguably the best crossbow in the game next to the Dragon Hunter. So compared to the Dragon Hunter at Dragons, it's kind of a joke. I don't really see anyone using the Armadyl Crossbow. I mean, maybe more now, considering the nerf to the Blowpipe, but let me know what you think. Overall, I would probably go out of my way to not use the Armadyl in most cases, so I don't see that changing after this buff. It's not substantial enough where I would go and buy one. So moving on to the Shayzien Armor, a lot of people were definitely worried about fighting the Lizardman Shamans for their Dragon Hunter crossbow grind. So what they did to counteract and compensate for that is by making all of the Shayzien Armor give you an additional ranged accuracy increase for a total of 30 instead of -8. So it's actually a huge increase. It's nearly 40 extra points. So they said that this is going to counteract it, making it so that if you are using Rune or Amethyst, it's only going to be 0.5% worse than it currently is. So it's pretty much nothing. And if you're using Adamant Darts, it's going to be 13% worse, which is going to be 2.2 seconds longer per kill. So overall, I think this is a great change. I think they were listening to a lot of points people were really worried about, and really went after that and tried to make it so that it's much more just not a slap in the face when they do nerf the Blowpipe, because that is definitely going to come down the pipeline, and they just want to make it as smooth as possible transition. And it seems overall that I'm liking a lot of these changes. So speaking of that, though, they also are going to be talking about the nerfs to Inferno. Again, another thing a lot of people had really big concerns about. So as you can see here, they have a little breakdown of the rangers and the healers. This is mainly what you're going to be using your Blowpipe against. I've never done the Inferno. I've only watched people do it, so let me know if I get anything wrong here down below. But essentially what they're saying is you're going to have overall less accuracy here in this area. But as you can see here, you're going to have higher average hits on the rangers and higher average hits here on the healers, but you're just going to be hitting a little less often. Overall, the DPS is a little bit lower, as you can see here, 0.6 lower, as well as here, this is also going to be about zero point 0.6 lower. So not a huge damage decrease, but it's still enough to talk about. So 5% damage decrease, 6% damage decrease. So it's definitely obviously a nerf, but again, that was the goal. And this isn't going to make it so that you're not finishing the Inferno. At least that's what it seems like from my perspective. So, but again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I know I've said that a lot this video, but overall I want this to be a discussion and a thoughts video. So let me know what you think. And I mainly use the Dragon Hunter and the shields. So overall, I think those changes are good. I don't use the Blowpipe a ton now anymore, but I still think the changes overall looked good. So let me know what you think. So as you can see here at the very bottom, this is going to be about the end of the video. Overall, they wanted to give you a few summaries and reminders. They wanted to make it so the Twisted Bow is good against high magic targets, Dragon Hunter is good against dragons, and the Blowpipe is good against everything else. This is the current meta, or the old meta. They wanted to change it so that, again, the Dragon Hunter and the Twisted Bow are the same, but they wanted to change it up and make it so the Toxic Blowpipe is only good against enemies with effective 20k or lower defense. And they wanted to kind of push up the Crystal Bow and the new potentially Bow of Faerdhinen into the high and med defense areas. So again, I still think the Crystal Bow is going to be a really boring option, and an option I just wouldn't really go for, especially for how much it costs. It's just so expensive. It's very prohibitive because with ruby bolts, it's like that's cool, but in a lot of cases, I could just get a dragon crossbow. I mean, if you have the money, obviously you would get the Armadyl, but compared to like the Dragon Hunter, you'll see a huge damage increase here. But with the Armadyl, especially with the somewhat mediocre special attack, even after the changes, I don't know if I would ever really go for that personally. As far as the Crystal Bow and the Bow of Faerdhinen, honestly, these seem like potentially awesome changes. I really like the idea of having a Bow of Saldor, essentially, where you can make it corrupted and you can get it from the Gauntlet, because honestly, the Gauntlet is really fun. It's cool because you don't need anything to go in there. And overall, I think this could be potentially a really cool change. I really like the change to the armor, the crystal armor and stuff like that. So that's going to be about it for the video. Overall, I like a lot of these changes. Not the hugest fan of the Armadyl. I like the armor changes, and the change to the darts really does make sense to me. One thing to really watch out for, though, I think is going to be the effects of the shields on Chinchompas and throwing knives, especially in things such as PvP. I know dragon throwing knives are a really big deal there in PvP, so I wonder how that's going to change there. Let me know if you do PvP and if any of this matters at all. So that's going to be my thoughts for the video. Hopefully that helped inform you a little bit on what they're planning on doing to the changes in the upcoming meta for range. So overall, I'm really liking them, and I really can't wait to see what the community comes up with. So hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you all very soon.